If you have tested positive for COVID-19 anytime since last Thursday, obviously you should not be going to a polling place. That's why Attorney General Steve Marshall says you are able to apply for an emergency absentee ballot. Our Kelly Kennedy tells us what you should do if you're in that situation.
The CDC recommends people who test positive for COVID-19 quarantine, meaning do not go out in public for at least 10 days. But what does this mean for people who recently tested positive but still want to vote?
If someone has been diagnosed with COVID as late as last Thursday, October the 29th, that individual will be able to vote an emergency ballot.
Voters must submit a copy of their ID and a note and signature from a physician explaining why the voter needs the emergency absentee ballot. However, those ballots had to be requested and returned by the voter by the close of business today. If you requested an emergency ballot in time but could not make it into the circuit clerk's office, you have one more option.
One can do that for them. You need to follow the instructions that are on the Alabama Secretary of State website at alabamavotes.gov.
The voter with COVID-19 can designate someone to sign and return their completed ballot for them. If it's returned by a designee, the ballot must be turned in to the county absentee election manager by noon tomorrow. But what if you test positive on election day or miss the opportunity to vote using an emergency ballot? Although not recommended, your only option would be to vote at the polls. Election officials are encouraging all voters to sanitize, social distance, and wear face masks when voting in person. But you will not be denied your right to vote if you choose not to wear a mask. For more information and our full election guide, head to our website, rocketcitynow.com. With your Voter Access team, I'm Kelly Kennedy, WZDX News.